I'd like to welcome everyone. It's 6:30 p.m. and the Louisville Planning Zoning Commission meeting of Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015 is now called to order, and there is a quorum present. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes of the October 20th, 2015 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions?
Mr. Chairman, on item 4, page 2, down in the second paragraph, where we're talking about the two structures along East Main Street, and this says member Steve Byers expressed concern. It was Sean Kirk that said that, not me. Minor correction.
All right, anything else? If not, may I have a motion to approve as presented with that correction?
Approve with the necessary corrections.
Okay, moved by Brandon,
Second.
seconded by Mary Ellen. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. Item number 3A, is the final plat of Belleville Village Phase 3. It's containing 36 residential lots and 2 HOA lots. It is a 3.158 acre tract. It is zoned Old Town Mixed Use 2 District, OTMU2, located on the east side of South Keeley Avenue between East Main Street and East Purnell Street, being a replat of Lot 1R, Block D, Belleville Village Phase 2. Mary?
Good evening, Commissioners. There's one plat on this agenda, public hearing. This is Phase 3, which is the final phase of this subdivision. It is a total of 70 residential lots. This particular phase has 36 of those. Phase 1 is already on the ground. Phase 2 is under construction, and this will be the final phase. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the plat.
Commissioners, questions? Okay, if not, at this time we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak on this subject, please come forward, sign in, and state your name. Okay, having no one come forward, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, comments, concerns, questions? If not, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Kristen to approve as accepted as approved.
Second.
Seconded by Brandon. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 4 is a public hearing for zoning and special use permit. This is a continuation of the public hearing that was on October 20th, 2015. The public hearing is open, but I'm going to go ahead and read the statement. Consideration of zone change request from Light Industrial District L1 to Planned Development Mixed Use District PU-MU for the Village of Louisville, a proposed mixed-use development on approximately 90.588 acre tract of land out of the Stephen Riggs Survey, abstract number 1088, and the William M. Brown Survey, abstract number 63, located on both the east and the west sides of Summit Avenue, north of Kansas City Southern Railroad and Grandy's Lane, with frontage on the west side of Interstate 35E, commonly known as North Stemmons Freeway, and on the east side of McGee Lane, as requested by Beverly Development Company Incorporated, the applicant. This is case number PZ 2015-1016. Richard?
Good evening, Chairman Davis and members of the Commission. As you mentioned, this item was continued from your last meeting 2 weeks ago. There were a few issues that needed to be worked out between the applicant and staff. Staff has worked with the applicant, and all those issues have been worked out, particularly on the exterior building materials that will be utilized in this development. One other thing, I believe several commissioners asked about the number of residential units, and the applicant has added some language in there that there is a maximum of 1,925 residential units across the entire development. That's further broke down to a maximum of 300 single-family units and 1,625 multifamily units. And again, that's across the entire development. There are 6 individual zones within, and each of those zones specifies the number of units, and all of those add up to the numbers I mentioned earlier. The applicant is present this evening and is available to answer questions, and we have his presentation loaded on the screens if you would like to view that once again. And with that, I'll turn over the mic to Dan Quinto, the consultant for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dan Quinto, 602 Northwood Trail in South Lake. I don't want to try your patience nor assume that you remember everything we discussed at the last session, at the work session. So with your indulgence, I'll kind of go through the same presentation for the benefit of the record, but do it in a little bit more expeditious manner. Can you get that? Okay, next. I just want to introduce myself and Beverly Development, and then run through the existing site and mechanics of the PD, and then run through some examples. Okay. Beverly Development, owned and operated by Stephen Williamson. He's been working in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for over 30 years. All the equity for his developments is part of his family trust. He doesn't syndicate investments. Gives him a little bit more latitude. He's done residential, commercial, office buildings, medical buildings, quite a wide range of development. Currently has stuff going on in Frisco and also out of state. Okay. My credentials are I'm an architect, have been an architect for 30 years or so. I also have a real estate license. And I'll run through some of the pertinent projects just very briefly, just so you know that we have done this sort of work before. South Lake Town Square, I did project management on that for the opening phase. Also some design assist. Hometown, did master planning and deed restrictions and development agreements. Belmont is 1,000 acres of 4,000 housing units, mixed-use development, did zoning and design guidelines. Chisholm Trail Ranch, 600 acres in Fort Worth, did some zoning work and design guidelines. Lakeside DFW, 155 acres in Flower Mound, did the master plan, zoning, design guidelines. Southgate, also in Flower Mound, 108 acres, did the master planning, zoning, and developer agreement. Bear Creek Riverwalk in Euless, 200 acres, zoning, master plan, design guidelines. Main Street Lofts in Mansfield, that was an extension of their downtown, did the zoning on that as well. Just to go back and reiterate form-based codes and how they differ from standard codes, there's more of an emphasis on the public spaces and the character of the streetscape, that is the street, the parking lanes, the sidewalks, and the fronts of buildings. Then they're in more of an integration of uses rather than a buffering of the uses. There's also more of an emphasis on block structure so that the buildings are located at the perimeters of the blocks, and the parking would be located on street and interior to the blocks, so that the backs of the buildings are not as public as the fronts of the buildings. Here's the site. It's adjacent to, that's the boundary of the site. It's adjacent to a range of uses from single-family, multifamily, and commercial. There's also a number of constraints on the property. We have a gas easement running through one side. We have a gas drill site running through the other side. We have a detention easement to the Corps of Engineers. We have a drainage easement running through that side of the property. We have easement and railroad running through the south side. We have a telecom easement kind of breaking up that site in the middle. And we have the railroad to the south. Access from 35, there's not a lot of latitude on selecting where those entries are. If we want to get the maximum access to 35, that would be the way to do it, where those arrows are shown. We don't propose changing the median breaks, so those are fixed. And on McGee, there are only 2 places where it's possible to get around the gas well. And so those entries are fixed. So in terms of land use, there's it sort of lays out where you want single family across the tracks from single family, and then as you go north and east, you're getting higher density and more commercial. So that by the time you reach 35, that's required commercial on the ground floor. Okay. So in order to codify this, we've broken it up into 6 zones. Each zone has its own set of rules and regulations, own permitted uses. Okay. All the open spaces are also regulated. There are the open spaces where there's not a choice, and then there are park spaces which could be added as amenities, and those are specified and have requirements of their own. Okay. We've established a street and thoroughfare plan. The idea of the thoroughfare plan is to tie the entire neighborhood together so that it becomes knitted through streets, through pedestrian ways and open spaces, so it feels has the character of a single neighborhood. Of particular attention is the access along the property line to the north. That property line is in the center of a drainage easement currently. We're suggesting that we make an amenity out of that drainage easement, turn it into a canal if possible, and have both properties face toward the amenity. It's going to require a good deal of coordination, both with the city and with the landowner to the north. If that doesn't work, the alternative is to kind of back up to that drainage easement and move that street one interior to the site. Okay. Consistent with the idea of tying this together from a pedestrian standpoint is adding on-street parking and sidewalks along Summit Avenue so that there's more of pedestrian activity and you're slowing traffic down and facing buildings toward the street. Okay. In addition to the roadway network, there's also a pedestrian network because the pedestrian ways aren't necessarily married to the roadways. So there's the pedestrian network includes the required pedestrian connections, some optional pedestrian connections, and some town pedestrian connections. This slide is just an illustration to show that we're trying to provide the maximum amount of flexibility to those pedestrian connections so that they can extend to the property to the north, so that we're coordinating with that in mind. Yeah. The buildings also have their own sets of rules. We have 7 types of buildings that go from detached single-family to fully commercial buildings, and they are in gradations. So the difference being how commercial that ground floor is, and how commercial the building is. So building type 1 is a full kind of conventional office building. Building type 2 is office building on top and retail or office on the bottom. Building type 3 is apartments on top and retail on the bottom. 4 is apartments on top and live-work units on the bottom. And 5 is the urban style lofts that we're contemplating. Okay. Here's some examples of building type 1, building type 2 with the office over the commercial, building type 3 with living units over commercial. These are examples of live-work buildings, and these are example of the urban style dwelling units that we're anticipating. Then we have townhomes and detached dwelling units as well. Just to go back to the kind of genesis of this and the reasons for the zoning change for all our benefits, there is more economic benefit to the city to have a mixed-use development because of the attraction and amenities it brings employers as well as the knowledge workers and millennials who seek out these kinds of environments. If you look at the locations of all the major new office buildings in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, they've all landed in these mixed-use environments. In addition to that, sustainability, COG has a program for reducing vehicle miles traveled, utilizing existing infrastructure and so forth, and this is a way to do that. But it's also a way to enhance the character of the development. Okay. So putting all of these rules together, this is an example of a concept plan that would satisfy the rules and regulations that are contained in the PD, with residential along the south side. We have urban style dwelling units on either side of the park, on the west side of Summit, and then live-work units, urban development, and commercial along 35. So that's sort of a 10,000 mile an hour view through the PD, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioners?
What will be the tallest building of the?
4-story.
How many, 4? And it's 1,900 units?
1925.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The public hearing is still open. Anyone that wishes to speak on this subject, please come forward, sign in, and state your name. All right, having no one come forward, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, comments, questions, concerns? If not, may I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved to approve by Brandon, seconded by Mary Ellen. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item
Chairman Davis, this item will be considered by the City Council on Tuesday, Monday, November the 16th,
Thank you.
7 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Okay, item 4B, is consideration of a zone change request from general business, GB, to mixed-use district, MU, on approximately 10.79 acre tract of land. It is out of the E. Brown Survey, abstract number 62. It's located at the southwest quadrant of Grandy's Lane and I-35, known as North Stemmons Freeway, and north of Kansas City Southern Railroad, as requested by Santa Fe Realty Corporation, the property owner. This is case number PZ 2015-11-17. Richard?
Thank you, Chairman Davis. A wooded area within a floodplain is situated along the eastern boundary of this site, separating the buildable area from the I-35 frontage. The applicant has specified that the site will be developed in accordance with the MU district regulations and the Northern Gateway Framework Plan that was included in your packet as part of the concept plan submittal. The concept plan for the site illustrates 5 buildings which are in general alignment with the Northern Gateway Framework Plan, which specifies building heights of 2 to 3 stories with a mix of office, retail, attached residential, hotel, and entertainment land uses, which are all permitted uses within the base MU district. All other development components such as architectural design, parking, landscaping, screening, and lighting shall adhere to the minimum requirements of the MU district, the Northern Gateway Framework Plan, and the General Development Ordinance. The applicant is present this morning or this evening if you have any additional questions or would like any additional details. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners? Questions? All right, if not, we'll open up the public hearing. Okay. Yeah. Please sign in and state your name.
I'm O'Neill Gray, Jr. I'm with Santa Fe Realty. I think Richard really covered it all. We're just here this evening to talk about the rezoning from general business to MU for our 10.79 acres. I think the new zoning will ensure that the land follows the Northern Gateway Framework Plan, providing a mix of office, retail, multifamily, hotel, and entertainment land uses. The new zoning would also promote active transportation throughout the compact development, which would provide a benefit for all. Being that this land is in front of the new Interstate 35 ramp, the new zoning will also provide for a great gateway for the city of Louisville. That's all I have for this evening. If you all have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Commissioners, questions?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gray.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
Chair.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, the public hearing is now closed. Any general discussion? If not, may I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Steve to approve and seconded by Kristen. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Chairman Davis, this item will be considered by the City Council on Monday, November the 16th, 2015 at 7 o'clock p.m.
Thank you. Okay, next is item C. It is a consideration of special use permit, SUP, for a plant nursery with outdoor display and storage on a portion of the 10.807 acre lot legally described as Lot 1, Block A, Main Valley Shopping Center, located on the southwest corner of West Main Street, FM 1171, and South Valley Parkway at 1116 West Main Street, and zoned local commercial district, LC. It's requested by Westlake Ace Hardware, the applicant. This is case number SUP 2015-11-13.
Westlake Ace Hardware has recently leased 11,104 square feet in the Main Valley Shopping Center. This center was built in 1973 and contains a total of about 104,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing a maximum 4,000 square foot outdoor garden center with a temporary enclosure. They propose to use that enclosure for 1 year so that they can determine the final size based upon the market reaction to that part of their business. After 1 year, they will determine the final size and will construct an enclosure that will consist of tubular steel, 6 feet tall, with stone columns on the corners. If they do the smaller, it'll have just 4 columns on the corners, and the larger would have columns in the middle of the long sides. There's also a display area in front of the store on a portion of the sidewalk where they propose to display merchandise and plants. Staff has no objection to the request for the temporary enclosure. The owner of the shopping center has expressed an interest in upgrading the facade, and staff's been working with both the applicant and the owner on a plan to upgrade the facade that would include a combination of cultured stone and stucco along with suspended metal awnings. We think that would make a drastic improvement to the appearance of that shopping center. Currently, the owner was unable to have the architectural drawings ready for presentation to the P&Z, and they are striving to have those ready for the City Council. So what staff is recommending is that upgrade occur 15 months after the approval of the SUP. That gives them a little bit of time to have their garden center under construction at the 12-month mark, and then 3 months later they would have the facade under construction. So the applicant did not want to have both elements under construction at one time to inconvenience their customers. The visual impact of the outdoor garden center from West Main Street will be minimal due to the fact that the bank building that is fronting West Main Street shields almost that entire area from view from Main Street. The permanent decorative fencing for the garden center, along with the proposed facade improvements, will bring forth a significant aesthetic improvement for this site and the general area. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the special use permit with 2 conditions. Number 1, the temporary enclosure shall be replaced with a permanent enclosure no later than 1 year after the approval of the SUP as outlined in the applicant proposal. And number 2, the front facade of Westlake Ace Hardware shall be upgraded with a combination of stucco and cultured stone with suspended metal awnings no later than 15 months after the approval of the SUP. A representative from Ace Hardware is present tonight and will be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing to really say more than that. So, do you have any questions?
I just had one. How does that interact with the traffic flow in front of the stores? Is this on the opposite side or rerouting of traffic?
It does not.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't affect it at all.
Does it affect the parking in front of the building? It looks like, is that part of the enclosure, or is
Yes,
that just?
part of the deal was they were going to put more parking spots in the
Okay.
back for employees, and we're not really parking spots.
Okay, I'm off.
Yeah, at a maximum 20 or 22 spaces will be removed for the enclosure. That shopping center total, I believe, has well over, right around 500 spaces, and those 20 spaces are going to be added to the back for staff and employee parking. But the enclosure will not impact any drive aisles or fire lanes.
Okay.
The plan for what you're going to store out there, there's a couple of different pictures in our packet. And one shows a bunch of flowers and it looks really nice. And then the other one shows bags of dirt and mulch. It's very different aesthetic
We
appeal.
do flowers in the spring, and then the rest of the year we have some bricks, some mulch,
Okay,
never more than 6 foot high.
okay.
Okay.
Is this gonna be anything like the Coppell location? I know that's not.
It's not ours, but even there's one in Farmers Branch like ours. We have 91 Westlakes.
Okay,
And
thanks.
Coppell I've seen, but it's not like that one.
Okay.
That's kind of spread out.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, if anyone else wishes to speak on this subject, please come forward. All right, if not, at this time, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, comments, questions, concerns?
I had a question for staff, just so I'm clear on how this works. If after 15 months, they decide they don't want to do it didn't really work out that great, then it just goes away? They take the temporary down and they take everything inside? Yes.
Actually, that's 12 months for
12
the garden
months.
center.
Okay.
And one quick question, that 12 months starts after city council approves the SUP, correct? It's 12 months, you said 12, they have a year after approval of the SUP, that's after the city council approves the SUP, right?
Yes, after council,
Gotcha.
city council approval of the SUP.
Awesome, okay.
Okay, may I have a motion then?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Brandon,
Second?
seconded by Steve. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, motion carries. Richard?
This item will be considered by the city council on Monday, December the 7th at 7:00 p.m.
Thank you. All right, item D is consideration of a zone change request from Local Commercial LC to Estate Townhouse, ETH, on an 8.695 acre tract. It's legally described as Vista Village Edition, lots 3-11, Block A, and lots 1 through 7, Block B, located on the east and west sides of Vista Drive, approximately 217 feet north of West Round Grove Road, FM 3040, and requested by KDH Partners, LTD, the property owners. This is case number PZ 2015-11-18. Mary?
Good evening, Commissioners. The zone change request before you this evening, again, is located just north of FM 3040 on both the east and west sides of Vista Drive. This piece of property is currently vacant. It's been zoned local commercial for a long time. It was recently replatted with the hopes of doing some kind of office center. That has never materialized. To the north, there is a subdivision that was platted in 1985 and is built out. To the west, there is more local commercial. There's a Tom Grocery anchoring a retail strip center. There's a Quick Trip over here. And there's some additional vacant lots to the south. On the eastern boundary, there's the Servant House Church. There are two items before you this evening, the last two items that are associated with one another. One is the zone change request from local commercial to estate townhouse, and the second is the preliminary plat for this property. So the preliminary plat we'll be discussing after this. It does have two variances requested, so we will be looking at both of them before you make a vote on this particular item. With Estate Townhouse, the developer is requesting, they are proposing 63 residential lots. Estate Townhouse requires a minimum 2,000 square foot lot, a minimum 2,000 square foot house, apologies, and a minimum 4,000 square foot lot. Letter submitted by the developer indicates that the price range will be roughly between $275,000 and $325,000, with a mandatory homeowners association. The property to the north was constructed again in the late 80s, early 90s. We have talked with one of the residents that lives in this area. They have spoken with the developer Plans show that the developer is proposing to dedicate an additional 3 foot of right-of-way along the rear alley, which will in turn bring up that alley size to the 18 foot, which is currently the regulations. Right now, it's a 15 foot, which was typical at the time it was constructed. The applicant is looking to build a 2-story product. I believe the homes to the north, actually all of our residential categories allow for a 2-story product. One of the residents has expressed concern over privacy issues. I believe they've talked with the developer, and in your packet there are some floor plans showing how they intend to address that privacy issue. With this zone change request, or with the preliminary plat, it would be a front entry product, so they would have a street in the middle here. They would not be accessing the alley to the rear. This serves to allow the residents to have a larger backyard, and is quite typical for an infill piece of property. This type of variance has been granted in other circumstances. The estate townhouse, again, allows for a larger house on medium-density lots, which is now the choice of many young families. Given the site's close proximity to shopping, services, and existing residential, staff feels that the request is a good proposal and will help improve the city's economic base and need for new residential inventory. So I would ask that we would open the public hearing and we would continue it, and we'd move on to the preliminary plat, discuss the preliminary plat, because there are 2 variances associated with it that are essential to making this project work.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Questions? Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak, please come forward and
Pardon, I couldn't hear what you were saying. This thing seems to be too far away, because I couldn't hear any of them. And, but anyway, what I wanted to know was, has any traffic patterns been looked into, considering that this is all families with children and yards and things. And a townhouse is normally not 1,000 square feet for the bottom and 1,000 square feet for the top. Those dimensions are very tiny and very skinny, and I would not label them as townhouses. If I were looking for a townhouse, I would not even consider them. And has a traffic light been proposed to get onto Round Grove Road or anything like that? Because that will be that is already a problem, making a left-hand turn to go toward, well, the, everything. And they're gonna be all two-story, and that will block, these are all like, they're gonna be in front of most of the houses are single-story, and it will be detract from the value of the houses next to them and the houses in the next block. And I wondered if, has anybody looked into that, and how do I find out if any of this is done or proposed, or what do you do? You know?
Mary, would you like to address that, or maybe an appointment with her at another time to discuss? Or?
So, just want to make sure that the public understands that this is single-family detached. So all of these units will be single-family detached housing, not
These are not
the
2,000 square feet, two-story.
It's 2,000 minimum square foot for the houses, yes. But these are all detached housing. They're not attached units. So they're larger than the housing that your neighborhood has, basically, yes.
They're very thin.
Or smaller.
Yeah.
The similar subdivision in the area is just down on 3040. It was developed about 5-6 years ago. So there's very similar type housing that you could take a look at.
Where's that at?
It's just right at 3040 and 121.
I'm sorry,
On the east side of your subdivision on 3040.
on 3040?
Yes. The price point for those developments, one of the things that came up was the economic development value of the subdivision, and will it impact the subdivision behind. Our experience with the new housing has shown that due to the price point of the new housing, which is well above $250,000, so normally our new housing is somewhere between $250 to $400 and above, then it not only doesn't impact the value of existing housing in a negative value, it increases the value of existing housing.
Okay.
On the traffic pattern, this is of course a very small subdivision. There's already existing infrastructure in place. Vista Drive, when it's warranted for a traffic signal, there will be a traffic signal during planning. We will evaluate that option more to make sure that traffic is not impacted, and to see if a traffic signal is warranted. I don't believe there's a median opening there, but I'm not sure at 3040. So if there's no median opening, then there's no reason for full turning movement, so there's no need for a traffic signal.
So can I ask that be looked into before the zoning be changed?
Well, that is not a function of zoning. It is a function of traffic, and it has to be warranted. 3040 is a state road, and we don't have very much leverage over it, so the traffic signal has to be warranted by a traffic study. And once it's warranted, we will install the signal.
So does that mean a traffic study will be done?
It's a Department of Transportation issue, not a local Louisville issue.
They're not local? You're saying what?
That is considered a state road, FM 3040.
The state decides whether a light can go in there.
After a survey, yes.
Okay.
They could approve it or they could deny it.
Well, these are very small, thin homes, and would be very unattractive. And I don't think that they're going to sell for $400,000 by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm opposed to them putting in those kinds of homes.
Okay. All your concerns have been noted and recorded, so.
Okay.
We got her name.
Oh, yes, we didn't get your name. You,
Yeah, I left it here. Kathleen Devine.
okay, thank you, Kathleen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll continue. Oh, okay, we have one more.
And there might be others too, so you have.
Okay, if so, can we limit our time maybe to 5
Sure.
minutes or so?
My name is Paula Flores, and Flores Gregg, and I am one of the residents right behind the line of the housing. I agree with the last speaker that that would definitely change the feel of the community, number one. And number two, traffic flow would increase, which we already have a tremendous amount of issues. And not only a flow study, but I'm looking at the environmental impact study that's done. It would be nice if they actually show the picture of the housing that is proposed to be, or the housing that's proposed to be in our backyard, because the housing that you mentioned that is similar to what's being proposed, we can see that, and that is not. It's not even blending with the community that was behind it. So if there was just take a look at what it is now and what it can be. You can see that the backyards would be the housing backs. So not only traffic, but also environmental impact, density. Also, if you look at the entire area, there's very few green spaces. I would recommend that city council, city, or whoever takes a look at the entirety and see if there's something else that we can put instead of more units. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Kathleen? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Will Langstaff. I am the pastor of the servant house adjacent to the properties that are being proposed. Our church does not oppose it, but we ask that if it is approved, that there be a masonry brick wall there. We have approximately 100 children in our daycare ministry, and I just think that that would add to what we try to provide security for our children.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much.
My name is Suresh Vidurani. I'm with Harlan Properties and Samir Homes. We are the ones who will be building homes out there. I want to make sure everybody understands that even though it's a townhome zoning, it's a detached single-family home. And each home will be separated from the other homes. They'll be built on a smaller lot than the lots to the north, but they'll still carry greater value. The land prices have gone up so much recently that you can't build a $100,000 home anymore. So the minimum 2,000 square feet homes will probably at least be selling at $270,000, $275,000. So it's a great tax roll for the city and the community, and I think we'll be good neighbors to everybody, and they'll be proud of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for allowing us the time to speak. My name is John Larson. I live at 1005 Cassian Drive, just adjacent to the property in question. We're concerned about the buffer zone between our neighborhood and the businesses and the state highway. And I appreciate the potential for this being a buffer zone. However, we do have concerns, as have already been expressed, regarding the traffic impact on a state highway that is not currently being controlled by traffic lights. There are still a lot of traffic lights along there. I'm not necessarily proposing that, but I think it should be taken into consideration what that impact will be when we start to increase the density of the population, pardon me, per square foot of property. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Larson. Yes, sir.
Evening. My name is James Collier. I live at 1020 Cassian Drive, directly across the alley from this proposed development. I've looked into it pretty thoroughly, and the idea of a buffer, just mentioned by Mr. Larson, is ideal. It'll mitigate the light intrusion from 3040 and the noise. We get headlights into our backyards every night, and with the two-story houses, we won't have it. And I also participated in the Vision 2025 committee. I was on the growth subcommittee. Okay. And the whole crux of the thing was we need to add housing stock. Louisville is built out. This is an ideal opportunity to put in some nice homes, attracting the right residents. We have the wonderful schools around that area. The Harmon campus, the elementary school, Southridge, it's ideal. I have looked at Sumir Homes. They have a pretty decent website. These homes are nice. They are, of course, better than what is on the other side of the alley, but that's a good thing, especially for the tax base. So, thank you.
Mr. Collier, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Arnaldo Valderrama. I live in 2094 Briar Cliff, very close to where Jim lives, just like a block away from the proposed project. I've been living in my house for the last 21 years. I've seen that subdivision and Louisville in general, how fast they grow. And I can tell you that we're already very condensed. There's very few free spaces, where not occupied by concrete and walls and, so-called houses, The proposed project, to me, looks so much out of context, with the rest of the subdivision. It's going to be just a weird mix of nice houses with this new condensed and very much next to each other. I mean, it's just a total different look. Traffic is really bad just as it is right now. I mean, that corner of Vista and 3040 is kind of dangerous, depending on the time and where you're coming from. And despite what the owner of the lot or whoever is developing this is saying that it's going to be nice houses and this and that, all I see is just a money-making opportunity, which I don't regret. But it's not the right fit, I think, for the community. And that idea of the buffer, think about more green areas, where people can walk and recreate themselves. Just think about the people who are already there. Me, I've been there 21 years, and I'm completely opposed to this idea.
Okay. Could you please sign in, though, before you leave? Okay.
Sure will.
And thank you very much for your input.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Christopher Brown, Chris Brown for short, not the singer or the girlfriend beater. Commissioner, may I approach? I have copies.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a big extra. You have an extra copy up here as well.
As far as the proposal, I think the houses is an excellent idea. It would be great for our small village, the tax base. The homes that she had spoke about, which is down toward 121, are beautiful. They look great. The field right now houses a bunch of mice, and they usually jump in our pool, and I have to fish them out. I think it'd be a great if we could possibly have on the street to fix the traffic, if we can't get a traffic light, is speed bumps. Not small ones, but a little bit larger, because it is a thoroughway through to Corporate Drive. People utilizes that because of the traffic that backs up by the Tom Thumb. Now, what I had handed you is the alleyway, which we have had some discussion about. Now, I've measured our alleyway. Our alley, cemented, is 10 feet. Your former commissioners in 1985 deemed it to where they would approve 10 feet for the cement, 5 feet for the easement. Now, thinking in terms of being equal on both sides, that 5 feet would go on the other side as well, since they gave 10 feet for the cement, the alley itself. 3 feet is very generous. However, from it being 10 feet, 3 feet more, I've got a Suburban. No matter what I've tried, ever since this has come out and they've erected signs on the side of the street, I've tried to back out of my driveway, and I always go over. If they're going to put a brick fence there, I'm gonna be paying for a lot of bricks to be replaced. So if you can see that before some of these issues, or before you approve this, that you do a little due diligence as far as the research. On here, it does state 18 feet, and that the developer is going to be kind enough to give 3 feet. However, the 3 feet is just not 3 feet. It also needs to be cemented. If it's cemented, who's going to take, if it's not, who's going to take care of the grass that's going to grow between their fence and the alleyway? But if it's cemented, then there's no issue. Also, it does make it a lot wider. But there's people have boats. I'm one of them, and I park it on my driveway. If you notice here, all these places here have houses behind them, and the lots are the same, so therefore the driveways are the same. And I lived on Little Den, which is about right here. Oh, that's past Dowie. When you backed up, you could back up in your neighbor's driveway. We're not going to have that. So it's very important that 3 feet you need to really realize that is not going to be enough, since we were already gypped out of an extra 2 feet of being the alleyway itself. And as far as the lights are concerned, here is Ace Lane. Ace Lane in 1988. The city of Louisville put up a light within 30 days. And even at that time period, they were only issued 2 lights per year, but they had an election coming up. And they were able to get that issue solved. What else is there? I think that's about it. But as far as a brick wall there versus if you're going to keep it the same, make it a fence so it would be easily repaired for the older people that live along here and here. And I live actually right here. And if you go by there any given day, a lot of these people that live here, they utilize this right here for parking. If you look on the sides, there's been so much of being backed out on. Every driveway has where they backed up onto the area. So we are only talking anywhere from 12 to 24 inches. And that would pretty much satisfy. But as far as the homes, the space, the 2-story, I think they're beautiful homes. I think they did a very good job. So if you could see it to table this till either the end of December or the first of the year to look at the 1985 city ordinance for alleyways, you'll probably see that since they did have 10 feet, 5 feet was on one side, 5 feet was on the other, thinking in terms of this would mirror this. Any questions?
No?
No.
Well, I do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
You have one more?
Good evening. First of all, I apologize for being late. I had to do my civil duty and go vote, so I'm here. Just wanted to make some remarks and comments. First and foremost, met with the developer. I also think this proposal is a great idea. I reside right behind Cassian, so this directly impacts me, which is the reason I'm here tonight. My main concern, I'm full support of the housing that's being proposed. I think it'll definitely add visual appreciation to the neighborhood, but also it'll kind of fit into what we're trying to do in the city of Louisville, right? To build more residential communities. So I'm all for it. The one concern or remark I would like to make is on the sidewalk that goes on the side of Vista here. It's partially complete on one side. The other side, it kind of dead ends. So I have 2 young daughters that I like to go out and take out for a bike or for a walk. And most of the time, when we walk up to the sidewalk, we have to stop right where the sidewalk ends, and it turns into dirt. I've filed a complaint, not a complaint, but a request to have that sidewalk kind of cleaned up, because most of the time it kind of gets overgrown, dirt builds up there, and along with the trash, there's a lot of glass here. I do my part to keep Vista clean as much as possible with all the trash that goes up there, but one request that I would like to make is to finish up the sidewalk to go all the way up to 3040, so that it's a clear path to the street. As it stands right now, the street ends, and it's just, I think if we're gonna do this, we might as well do it right. Having community built in and then having a sidewalk that kind of ends in the middle of the street doesn't really add, doesn't make much sense visually. So those are just my remarks.
Please sign in also before.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jason Stiefel with Jacobs Engineering, working with Harlan Properties on this project. As far as the comment about the alley, as Mary stated previously, we are dedicating the extra 3 feet of right-of-way to make the alley right-of-way up to current city standards. And as you may have noticed on the, seen on the preliminary plat that's in your package, we are not proposing a masonry wall along the alley. It's going to be a wood fence there, so that should alleviate the gentleman's concern there. And as far as the sidewalk goes, we would be building the sidewalk, extending it adjacent to our property along Vista Drive. So thank you for your time.
Thanks,
I ask
sir.
for your approval tonight.
Very quickly.
I just want to Christopher Brown again. I just want to reiterate that, yes, it is to city code if they do 3 feet. Okay, that is city code, that's what I handed you. And that was done in the year 2000, I didn't bring my glasses, but it looks like 2010, okay? However, the streets, if you table this and look at it in December or earlier, you'll see that the reasons behind much of that, because most of this, the alleys were 10 feet, were because of the trash trucks, the T791s were smaller, but we have bigger ones now. We have it to where they issued us bigger trash cans. And guess what? That 5 feet is where we put the trash cans. But the 10 feet is not even enough for a car to go down. So even if you did 3 feet, you're still gonna be too close and trying to back out moving equipment. I've tried to put in a U-Haul to carry some things out of the garage, put it in storage. I had to utilize the area. There would be no way except to take it to the street and back it up onto the yard.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's very important that, yes, I agree, he is right. But I do want you to just reiterate that it was not started out at the 12 feet to begin with.
All right. Thank you. I think the staff has that noted for discussion. Okay. Do we have anyone else?
Mr. Chairman and the commissioners, I believe the residents have brought up some very good points. My recommendation at this time would be to table this item so we can see if we can work through with the developer and the residents to come up with certain solutions, because I do think there have been some points that needs to be worked out on the project.
Okay, so at this point, we'll close the public hearing.
So we need to make a motion to table.
Okay, motion by Brandon to take,
Recommendation would be to table both.
okay, to table both D and item 5A.
Second.
Well, I guess we need to state the motion. Move to table 4D and 5A.
Okay, seconded by Kristen. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The last item is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mary Ellen, seconded by Kristen.
Everyone.
Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned.